Russian President Vladimir Putin invoked Jesus, Satan, and transsexual boogeyman in a Kremlin ceremony for carving up Ukraine on the 30th of September. Satan, he's the problem. That's why he's doing what he's doing in Ukraine. And Matt Walsh is making similar news and trending the word satanic for calling Japanese cartoons satanic. He doesn't know why, but everything I don't like is satanic. Joining me now to discuss is my good friend, Hannah Cox. Hannah is the founder and editor of Based Politics, co-founder of basedpolitics.com. She's joining us on the show right now. Good morning, Hannah. Thank you so much for joining us on the show.
Morning.
Yeah, glad to have you.
Me, Austin.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me. So what was your response when you heard that, Putin was attacking the West as satanic? Did you roll your eyes like I did, or how did you feel about that?
Yeah, I did. You know, you and I have different religious backgrounds and views. You come from more of an agnostic kind of background. I grew up in church. My dad's a pastor, but I have to roll my eyes at these kinds of things because it kind of triggers me. Okay. It reminds me of being a kid and like everything that was cool in the culture that I wanted to watch and partake in. Like they actually didn't usually call it satanic then, they would call it new age, but that was the same thing, right? It had like demonic forces behind it. And I'm talking everything from literally like, I was allowed to watch Powder Puff Girls to Teletubbies to all kinds of things. It was always something. And there was this magazine that came out and published called Plugged In Magazine, and it would come out and would rate all the different pop culture things and whether or not your kids should get to watch it. So it just ruined my childhood, and that's what this reminds me of.
But I'm betting that you probably were allowed to watch VeggieTales.
VeggieTales was definitely allowed in our house. Magic School Bus. There were a few things. Disney for the most part, although the Southern Baptists did boycott Disney for a little bit because they were a little too pro-gay. So yeah, there was a couple of constants, but I don't know. I think this kind of reminds me of, the moral panic that you saw in the 1990s, where you literally had Eminem being put on trial by Congress and video games and people kind of trying to question whether or not music and cultural things could lead to actual violence. You had churches that would have these big bonfires where you would come burn your secular entertainment items to show how devout you were to Christianity. And as a whole, this is the kind of thing that made me want nothing to do with organized religion throughout a lot of my adult life, even though I was still somebody who believed in God and had that spiritual sort of aspect to my life. I couldn't stand the way churches sort of lost their minds about this. And also, I think, prioritize things in exactly the wrong way. These are not things that hurt people. You can dislike things. You can think that they maybe even go against your religion without thinking that they're actually satanic or demonic. And I just think people should be a whole lot more concerned with all the actual evil in the world that is hurting people on a daily basis, right? And then that's what churches should be focused on.
I think I agree with you. And, I believe that Putin is very intelligent and that he knows exactly what he's doing when he says things like that, because, he wants to stoke dissent and dissension here in the United States, and he wants to get people on his side. And what better way to do that than to appeal to a Christian base that by, declaring what the West is doing demonic, to attack what conservatives are attacking here in the United States. And by declaring the West to be satanic, it sort of confirms the biases of many American conservatives here who may be teetering on the edge of supporting Russia over Ukraine. I mean, whatever side of the conflict you come down on, it doesn't matter to me here. But I mean, I think that Putin is very good at manipulating people, and there's no better way to manipulate people, in my opinion, than through religion.
Wow. Yeah, I think I can't disagree with that. It's often been used as a weapon to try to organize people, to try to control people's conduct, and to turn people against one another. I think ultimately, if you're a Christian, whether you're in Russia or you're in the US, then should be the fundamental you ascribe to. It shouldn't be coming down to in the US are good, Christians and Russia are bad. I think that's very sad. And, when we talk about the moral panic in the US, it's really more of a issue. When we talk about it in pertinence to Russia, this is things where you're trying to really rally people up to commit crimes, to murder people, to go to war, right? To hurt people, to take their things. And I think that's even sadder. I hope that, people in Russia see through that. Certainly we see through it here, but, we have equal opportunity offenders, I think, often when you look at politicians who will try to use these kinds of things to convince people that the political enemy is also an enemy of their religion.
Yes.
motivate people, I think, to be a bit more passionate, and you start to really merge those lines of politics and religion. And I think that's always a really big issue in any country, and it's something we see happen here as well. Church and state is something that is often the separation of church and state is often misunderstood, and I would say maybe isn't even as stringently enforced through our Constitution as I would have liked to have seen it at the founding. But I think it's a really important notion, because when you start to merge those things throughout history have been used to kill people, to hurt people, to commit genocide, right? Like many, many wars have been started around these sorts of religious elements. And so people need to be a bit more sober minded, a bit more cautious and throwing out these kinds of terms, I think, and really make sure that you don't start to equate things like anime with actual satanic elements, right?
Now,
Like,
we're going to get to that. Yeah, we're going to get to that next, definitely. I hate to interrupt you, Hannah. I just want to make sure people know who we're talking to. If you're just tuning in, we're speaking to Hannah Cox. She is the co-founder and president of basedpolitics.com, based-politics.com, if you want to learn more about her. We're talking a little bit about the satanic panic and about Putin's accusation that the West is satanic, and we're going to get to Matt Walsh accusing anime of being satanic here in just a minute. But I want to make one point here very briefly, because I know probably the majority of my listeners and followers are Christians and are believers in God and Jesus and are believers in Satan. But I think it's important that for these people to hear a point of view that you can disagree with abortion and you can disagree with the mutilation of children for surgeries and for loading them up with what they call gender affirming hormones. You can disagree with all of these things for perfectly secular reasons. And that it's important for you to know that there are people who are in your camp who believe in the Constitution and who believe in limited government and who have perfectly secular reasons for doing so. And that it's important for you, I know that, you're concerned mostly about you not being alienated, but it's important for you to understand that you should not alienate the people who are on your side, who agree with you on all of the policy issues, but for perfectly secular reasons. Now, on the other side of this, with the Matt Walsh, calling anime satanic, Hannah, like let's put the shoe on the other foot here and maybe say, is it possible that people like Matt Walsh and Christians are just trying to wind up people like you and me, just trying to get a response, just trying to troll people like you and me on this?
I mean, when it comes to Matt Walsh, you can only assume that, right? Like he's kind of a professional troll. So I think he cares mostly about getting clicks more so than he does actually having a serious conversation about Christianity. That's been pretty apparent to me for some time. But I think the problem is that you have a lot of people who follow people like that, who take them seriously, who take them at their word. And I think even if you dig beneath the surface, like set Matt Walsh aside, what he's doing is common in Christianity, and it is common in our churches. And it is something I, again, have witnessed and seen and grown up with. And I think that it is a problem, most importantly to me, because if you're a Christian, the things that you should be predominantly concerned about are really out in the world, right? You need to be taking care of people. You need to be looking for ways to minister to people, to try to bring people together. When you're out there fighting the culture war first, not only are you more preoccupied with that and more preoccupied with like owning the different that you dislike, but you're also usually causing division and actually pushing people away from wanting to be involved with your way of thinking or your views, because it's so ridiculous. And again, that was something I experienced where I care a lot about the ways that we Christianity and society, and especially being an activist on things that really can hurt people in the political sector and trying to be involved in that way. But I was so turned off to being involved with church and really being around evangelicals, because I was like, if you're concerned with these things, right, you're more mad about Disney having a gay parade than you are that we lock people up for smoking marijuana and take away their lives and separate them from their children. Something's gone really, really wrong in your religion and also in your culture war, because these are not the things that are actually hurting people. And so I think that that's why it is so annoying to me. And it's not because I love anime. I've never even watched anime, but again, it's distracting. Right. And I think that, and again, it can lead to actual worse outcomes than just being distracting. I think it can lead to real hatred amongst groups. I think it can lead to real divisions, and religion at its best should be a unifier and a healer and something that actually brings people together and helps them.
So Hannah, being a self-professed Christian, and a believer, do you believe in Satan?
Oh God, yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. I think that there's real spiritual warfare in the world. I absolutely believe in that, just as I believe I have a spiritual connection to God, and I pray, and I've seen, that work in my life, and I can point to many things throughout my time on earth where I know it was bigger than me, right? Bigger things have happened to me than I could have possibly created. But at the same time, I've also seen demonic spiritual warfare where I think there are real evil elements in our society that are working against us, that hurt people, that can suck people into harmful lifestyles. So I think that is the real battlefront that we are facing. But again, don't equate things that you don't like in pop culture to that battlefront, right? I think that that's more akin to what you would actually see with Russia getting involved in, right? That's evil spiritual warfare, trying to convince people that the solution or the answer is to hurt others, to go to war, to take their things. That's the kind of things we need to be working against.
Man, this is good stuff. This is a great conversation, Hannah. We should definitely have this again. But if you want to get more commentary like this, you can check her out at based-politics.com. Hannah, is there anything else that you think our listeners should know before I let you go?
No, I would love for them to check out our work. Brad and I just took base politics full time. So we are hard at work over there, making lots of content, and appreciate you having us on and giving us the platform.
Congratulations to you, Hannah. Good for you.
Thanks, Austin.
Thanks so much for joining us. That's Hannah Cox.